You know, so let's not loud salawat on Muhammad wa alihi, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على
وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفرأيت من اتخذ إلهه هواه وأضله الله على علم وختم على سمعه وقلبه وجعل على بصيره غشاوة فمن يهده من بعد الله أفلا تذكرون صدق الله العلي العظيم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
The captivity of religion has been our ongoing topic. Tonight is lecture number 4. We have together now, with the help of Surah Jathiyah and the 53rd letter in Nahj al-Balagha of Amir al-Mu'mineen, attempted to look at this istilah known as Deen Asir, a deen that has become captive, imprisoned, placed in confinement, not one that is governing us or leading us, or the one that is the motivation behind a lot of our major decisions in our life. And the question is why? Why not? Why isn't the deen leading the charge? Why is it that the deen has a very limited role in people like mine life, and why isn't there a more active role, if not the only role, in my life? And so we talked about the idea that part of it is the fact, and this is based on the letter of Imam Ali to Malik Ashtar, فَإِنَّ هَذَا الدِّينَ قَدْ كَانَ أَسِيرًا, that know that this deen at one moment was in the hands of those who are ashrar, who do shar, who are evil individuals. In that process now, they imprison the deen. And part of the reason why they imprisoned the deen, يَعْمَلُوا فِيهِ بِالْحَوَى, they acted on their lowly desires, their carnal desires. They allowed every voice inside of them to be heard and acted upon. And that brought us to the Quran, where we linked that with the wahi of Allah from Surah Jathiyah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes those individuals who have taken their lowly satanic impulses to be their ilah and their Lord and their Rabb. And Allah describes what happens after that. They become zalila, they become individuals whose hearing and whose hearts and eyes are sealed, and so on and so forth. And we talked about this verse now in detail for the past 4 nights. Tonight we look at a very important conversation that we have with ourselves. And I wanted to make sure that I deliver this message to myself and to all of you. And that's that sometimes I think that we have this unfair and sometimes an illogical expectation from the religion. I need you to have a little bit of an open mind with me tonight. You see, when you have expectations that are illogical from somebody or from something, or they are baseless, or they lack any sort of rationale, that entity, that individual is always bound to do what? Disappoint you. And it's not that it's a disappointment because that person or that entity let you down. It's that your expectations that will always cause that failure and that disappointment to happen. We have to be a little bit careful in not believing in a deen of potions. Please stay with me for a moment. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. You see, look, we live in a world of quick fixes. We live in a world where everything is immediate. Everything is instant. Okay? If I don't respond to you within a minute, I'll have a question mark in my WhatsApp. All right? I saw that you read my message. They're all blue. Why can't you reply to me? Why are you leaving me on red? Everything has to be somewhat instant. You know, I emailed you an hour ago and I haven't gotten a response from you yet. Just give me 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. And in the process now, we end up now having this instantly gratifying expectation from the deen as well. And so we are looking for the quick fix, the overnight pill, the magical potion, the wand that can come, and if I read this a few times, like magic, everything that I'm looking for will either happen or things I'm trying to get rid of will disappear. And when they don't, I end up having a talk with myself that the deen might be for others, the deen is not for me. I'll give you examples. Because all of you should know, and you do know, that the deen of Islam is a deen of harkat. It's a deen of movement. It's a deen where we have to instigate that movement towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In a whole conversation on theological foundational principles, there's a whole debate on free will and predestination. I don't want to go down that route. What we do know from this conversation is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a jabri Allah, is not one who forces things on us. Is not one, for example, that will sit there and say, whether you like it or not, I'm going to force you to act this way. Yes, there are laws, there is a sharia, there's ahkam, there are consequences, but ultimately whether or not you and I decide to act on that is ultimately up to our free will. Okay? He's not a God who's begging for followers. He's not a God who's trying to really make sure he has the most servants of any other God there is in this universe. He's not pleading, he's not bargaining, he's not advertising, he's not marketing. He's not at the door handing out flyers, please believe in me, please believe in me. He's Azal, he's Abad. He was there way before we were there. He'll be there long after we are gone. He's in no need of us. We are, in fact, in need of him. Ya ayyuhan nas, antum fuqara'u ilallah. Wallahu huwa al-ghaniyyul hamid. No, all mankind, not even ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu. All of mankind. You are in a constant state of need when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah, He's Ghani and He's Hamid. He's needless and He is praiseworthy. Which means that if we want to cultivate a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has to be instigated by us. Up and down the Quran, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ وَمَنْ يَخْرُجْ الَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. All these verses one by one, for the one now who has piety, for the one now who does migration, for the one now who struggles. After that initial for the one, then comes a reward laid out by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then you can expect an ajrun azim. Then you can expect a makhraj and a solution. Then you can expect healing, but the first step has to come from you. So in our suffering, in our hardships, in our problems, in our troubles that a lot of you are going through right now, especially my youngsters, and looking for some solution, we sometimes, not everybody, sometimes, we're looking for a magical potion to drink or sprinkle on my hardships, and like magic, like some Harry Potter movie, it'll vanish away and go. And when it doesn't, Like, see, I tried, doesn't work. Because it doesn't exist. Yes, du'as are there, no doubt, but dua without amal is not how God works. Even those who have miraculously recovered from a disease, they initially got treatment from the doctors. So sometimes we don't have the overnight dua. Sometimes I don't have an istikhara verse to ensure that this guy will be amazing for your daughter in marriage. I don't have it. You know, I get phone calls, you wouldn't believe it. Maybe you might believe it. The night before their final exam. Yeah. Moulana, I have a big final tomorrow. I said, okay. Haven't studied a single page. Okay. Give me a dua so I can ace my exam. I said, sure. Repeat after me. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Get excited. Allahumma, Allahumma, go study. Is that Arabic? Yeah, that's Arabic. Go study is Arabic. And then when you study, then you come towards the dua. But be careful of the potions. I've asked without amal. There are some who have asked with amal, that's Allah's hikmah. But there are many of us that ask without amal. And we've tried, doesn't work, I'm going to go somewhere else. And that's when we what? We drown our hardships in substances, in addictions, in numbing devices, in distractions, in shaitan. I tried that door, Moulana. You told me ask. I've been asking. Nothing's not happening. I haven't done the actual amal. I want to be closer to Allah. Have you started doing your salat? No, not really. I want to get closer to Allah. Have you read His words? No, not really. I want to start a hijab. Fantastic. It might be hard to put a scarf on your head. Have you started to loosen up your clothing? No. But wallah, I'm really asking Allah. That's great. The first step has to come from you. Has to come from us. Then let Allah do His magic. But not before that. He's not a Jabari Khuda. He's not an Allah who's going to force things on any of us. I'm sorry, He doesn't need us as His servants. And all of you know that. So in our search for healing, please hear me tonight. In our search for healing, and God knows we all need healing. Whether you are a grandparent in this room who are worried about your grandkids or your akhirat, or you are a parent right now to young kids worried about the next decade, or you're yourself young children worried about this and that, or I'm worried about my spouse, or my job, or what's going to happen in the U.S., or our future. Everyone is in need of healing. And the deen, if you just let it be free a little bit, has an incredible way of healing us. And I want to present that tonight to all of you, beyond the magical potions, guys. Having a concrete, logical, rational look at how to handle some of the ups and downs of this dunya. We're going to go back, of course, towards the Quran and towards Imam Khomeini's works of Adab al-Salat. Before that, as you move forward, please, one nice loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I don't want anybody here to get me wrong that are you asking us not to pray to God? Of course not. The dua has to be accompanied with amal. God has to see a little bit of movement from us. And I tell you, sometimes all it takes is an inch of a movement. And then He opens up doors. As I said last time, وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. He then provides us from a source that we never even thought was a source to begin with. That's His magic. But it has to be وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, for the one who takes that first God-conscious step. Now, follow me as we go tonight through the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as you know, His qualities have been broken down into various aqsam and categories. One category that the ulama now have broken down His sifat into are His jamali qualities and His jalali qualities. Do you get? And I want us to understand these terms that I'll be using a lot tonight. I'm trying to establish the fact that if you believe that you can heal without God, it's an uphill battle. If you are somebody who needs healing right now and you are right in the trenches of your hardship, and a lot of you I know are, or you carry heavy, heavy scars in your heart, and you have, or I have, let's say, like I said, subconsciously, imprisoned the deen. For whatever reason, we talked about trauma, we talked about history, we talked about all this idea that me and God are not really on good terms, blah, blah, blah. You know, he hasn't been kind to me, he took my mother away from me, miscarriages, divorces, blah, 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 all these things. Let's try to look at it through a different lens. And what I really want to do tonight is take you on a journey through a different lens, a realistic journey of trying to heal through our wounds without the magical potions and the magical wands. We live in an era of dragons and thrones and magical seeds and wands and potions and witches. And as entertaining as they are, sometimes they seep into our conscious. And we end up blurring the lines between those things that are fictitious and those things that are actual logical. God doesn't exist on some fictitious island or on the back of a dragon flying through the air. He exists in the realm of logic and intellect and rationale, and 2 + 2 = 4 world. Let's travel through that world tonight to see where we can come up with. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. So bear with my voice as I try to get through this. I've been talking pretty much all day today. I'm straining myself, I understand, but inshallah all of you can hear me okay, no issues there. My sisters, we're good? All right. One more loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Those sifat that are jamali in nature and jalali in nature. Jamal, or the term jamil, is beauty. There are those qualities of Allah that reflect His beauty. For example, His love, His compassion, His mercy, His forgiveness. The fact that He is satarul uyub, He hides our defects from others. He hides our sins from others, doesn't expose us to the masses. What we did behind closed doors, where He is the only witness, remains behind closed doors. That's His lutf, His grace. He's latif, He's rahim, He's razik, He's ghafar. All these things are His jamal, His beauty. The side of Allah that's jalali in nature, His authority, His power, His dominance, Him being the avenger, His wrath, His anger. All those things also exist within Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And any experience that reflects those qualities in this world is either a jamali experience or a jalali experience. Okay? And if you are somebody like myself at a very low level of spirituality, all you see is a jamali experience for what it's worth and a jalali one for what it's worth. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, thank you very much, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses me with some rizq, either in the form of a child or a spouse or a job or izzat or shu'rat or love from a community, or words of really admiration that I don't deserve from people like Ayisi Wale. All these things is the risk of Allah. And that is a very jamali experience for me. To the point where sometimes we should and we do, we get overwhelmed by the love of Allah. How do I thank you, Allah? How do I thank Allah? When Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam now is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how do I thank you? It's very famous that many prophets have asked. Because even if I was to thank you, that tawfiq to thank you requires a thank you. He says, so long as you understand everything you have is from me, Sulaiman, you thanked me. Allahumma ma bina min ni'matin famink. Everything that is in my ni'mah, in my bag of blessings, is what? Famink, from you. If we recognize that, we've done our first part in thanking him. That's a what? That's a Jamali experience. And then there is a Jalali experience that sometimes we have in this world, where I feel the wrath of somebody, the authority of somebody, the dominance of somebody, God forbid, the revenge of somebody. It's a Jalali experience. These terms make sense so far? As we climb up the ladder of spirituality, this is where now Imam Khomeini is now, Adab al-Salat, chapter number 4, I believe, on khushu' and humility inside of our salats. He brings about this conversation. It's available online, alislam.org. Pop it in the search, chapter number 4. This entire content of today's majlis is in that chapter. These are not my words. I have nothing up here, Khaliya. He then says, as you go higher up the realm, these two experiences begin to merge into one. And sometimes the outer form is Jamal and the inner form is Jalal. And sometimes the outer form is Jalal and the inner form is Jamal. I'll give you examples. I'm not losing you. Stay with me. I'll give you plenty of examples to really bring the point home. My simple stories, I'll give you all of them, I promise you tonight. But sometimes exoterically it is Jamali on the surface. Bidahir, apparently it looks like it's a Jamal, but hidden inside of it, there's Jalal. And sometimes it's Jalali in its exoteric nature, in its Dahir, in the apparent, but hidden inside that Jalal is Allah's Jamal. For example, my father, marhum, may Allah bless him, inshallah, was a man who was 6'4". And he had these eyes, ya Allah, the eyes. Wouldn't say a word, look at us, and right away we'd be straight. If I'm sitting beside him in a majlis, when there was tahzeeb in a majlis back in the day, ab to khair dur ki baat hai. And if my legs would come out for 2 seconds, wouldn't say a word, he'd look at my legs. And the legs would go back to where they came from within 2 seconds. He commanded respect in our house. A man of principle. To the point where I have 3 brothers, we're sitting in the living room, I can hear dad walking upstairs, coming down the stairs. If we're throwing the ball around, if for a second we're slouching in the couch and we hear the boom, boom, boom walking, dad's coming, get up, sit up properly, dad's coming, sit up properly, put the ball away. We're all like this. You come down and look up, hey dad, hey, how's it going? Good. And you would think it's a very Jalali experience. I'll start off with simple examples, then we'll come to the Quran. The Quran displays this reality beautifully. Let's start with my simple examples. Just bear with me. Sorry. So it's a Jalali experience. It's dad's authority. There's robe, we say in Urdu. One of those words you can't translate in English. Enters a room and we sit up straight. You think, wow, there's authority dad has. Absolutely. And while it's a Jalali experience on the outside, you would wonder, why are you so concerned about how you sit in front of your father? He's not a monster. No, he's not a monster. Never laid his hands on me. No, nothing. But deep down inside that Jalali experience is my undying need to gain his respect. Understand for a moment. I don't want him to think for a second, my dad, that these are my kids slouching on the couch, throwing a ball around. You might think, what's the big deal? You can't slouch at home? You can slouch at home. That's not my point. But sitting up straight now, showing the respect of my father, is not because this man is a tyrant and authority and jalal and I demand respect in the house. No, in fact, deep rooted in me sitting up is the fact that I really want that man to love and respect me. So Jalal on the outside, but really Jamal on the inside. So far, so good? We're going slow. Follow me. We'll pick up speed, I promise you. We're on the ramp in the highway 10. Once we hit the 10, we'll go straight, I promise. Just bear with me. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That's one example. Come to the other example. And the other example that we have of this whole Jalal on the outside and Jamal on the inside. You heard it before. Hear this through this angle now. The day of Ashura is a day that is Jalali in nature. Agreed? On the outside, on the page of the Maqtal, you're hearing about what? Trampled bodies, beheaded bodies, swords, arrows, spears, fire. That's all Jalal. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of sweat, there's a battle. Men are actually fighting back and forth. Horses are clashing against each other. Very Jalal, very Jalal, very Jalal. And yet when Bibi Zainab is asked about that day of Ashura, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. Okay? So Jalal on the outside, but really all she saw, she was blind to all the details I focus on. All she saw was a servant of God ready to sacrifice anything I possibly have for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So something that is apparent on the outside might have a reality on the inside. Those who are there with me are already there with me. Okay? Now, for the Jamal on the outside and the Jalal on the inside, let's come to the Quran. The story of Nabi Yusuf is a beautiful one. Chapter 12 in the Quran, the only chronological story that we have of the Prophet of God like this. It is a story filled with lessons, obviously. I want to bring you to that moment in that story. This is verse 31, where now news has spread that Zulaykha has fallen in love with Nabi Yusuf. And being the first lady of Egypt, essentially, the wife of the Aziz, her name now is being dragged through the mud. She is the talk of the town, as you say. Lots of rumors going around. Did you hear about her? Did you hear about her? To the point where some women would mock her. What are you doing? I mean, he's an 18, 19-year-old kid, 20-year-old kid. What are you doing? You're a respected lady. You're the wife of the Aziz. And as much as she tried to explain to them that you don't know what I see when I look at this man of God, they wouldn't understand. So what does she do? She arranges a meeting. She arranges an event to show these women that it's not just me. It would be you too in that exact same situation. So now all of you know this very well. They sit around in a room now. They have plates in front of them. They have knives in front of them, right? About to be given some fruit. And at the call of Zulaykha, Yusuf comes out now with some fruit ready to serve these individuals. And as they have their fruit in front of them, Yusuf comes out, and that's when the verse number 31 picks up the story. فَلَمَّا رَعَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ. They saw him and they marveled at him. وَقَطَعْنَا أَيْدِيَهُنَّ. And they cut their hands. They're cutting apples or the fruit. He walks by, and as they're looking at his Jamal, they're cutting their fingers in the process. وَقُلْنَا حَاشَى لِلَّهِ. Allah is incredible. مَا هَذَا بَشَرٌ. This can't be a mortal. This can't be a man. In هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. This has to be a noble angel. Meaning what? Meaning that while they are looking at the Jamal of Yusuf on the outside, They're oblivious to the jalal of cutting their finger. There's blood, there's scars, it hurts. When you cut your finger with these sharp paring knives, it's very, very dangerous. But they were oblivious to that. Why? They were taken by the beauty of Yusuf. So that moment where the Jamal of Yusuf absorbed the Jalal experience that they had, goes to show you not everything is what it appears to be in terms of the pain I feel. Now, as you go even one notch higher, this is what I want for all of you, including myself, is that you're able to identify the Jalali on the outside, Jamali on the inside, or Jamali on the outside, Jalali on the inside. Eventually, what I want for all of you and for me, through a lot of worship and du'as from Allah, is the fact that actually they become one. They become one. Meaning what? It all becomes the Jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It all becomes the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No longer is it Jalal on the outside and Jamal on the inside. It's Jamal on the outside, it's Jamal on the inside as well. Have I lost you yet? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. Meaning what appears to be a very authoritative, powerful, difficult situation no longer goes through the steps of something outer and something else inner. No, what is inner is outer, what is outer is inner. What others may seem like a difficult hardship, I see as the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very possible. We've seen people, problem after problem, hardship after hardship, jab bhi dekho, they have a smile on their face. They're walking through that door, alhamdulillah, dhikr of Allah is constant, praise of Allah is constant, nothing rattles them, we think, for a second. And if you ask them about their hardships, they respond by saying, I am blessed that Allah has chosen me for this hardship. At that moment, the Jalal is gone. Everything is beauty. Everything is beautiful. Even the scars that I have in my heart are beautiful in my eyes. We have countless examples of prophets. The more Allah and the more shaitan and the more this world tested them, the more deeper they fell in sujood for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now that's not a magical potion. Allah is not saying, look, I'll wrap you in saran wrap or bubble wrap and walk through the world. If you hit the wall or hit something sharp, don't worry, it's not going to affect you. No, you have to walk through the storm. You're going to go through hardships. There's going to be problems. We can ask for a quick fix, a quick dua before the exam, an istikhara verse to tell me my damat will be perfect. Doesn't exist. Or I can have this rational, intellectual, godly approach where yes, I'm able now to go through my hardships, but my lens is different. Meaning it's not the outside I'm waiting for it to change, it's the inside I'm waiting for it to change. Now, let me go through one more hadith by the Ahlul Bayt, and inshallah we'll wrap it up. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Because sometimes there are moments, and our fifth Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, I talk about hardships a lot. I talk about suffering a lot. I talk about troubles a lot. And in that process, we have to understand that there is immense wisdom behind that. And sometimes that wisdom is that Allah now invites us back to Himself through that hardship. Look at this hadith. Again, I want to change my mindset tonight. The next time this dunya throws something at me, and it's going to throw something at me. Can you imagine the Prophet of Allah would complain to Allah? 3 days he would go without a single hardship. 3 days, no jalali experience whatsoever. And then he would turn back to Allah complaining that, have you forgotten about me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But his litmus test, his ma'iyar, his criteria that Allah now has remembered me are through jalali experiences. Because he knows that if I go through this hardship, it's going to lead me to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the musalla at least, tasbih in my hand at least. WhatsApp messages. I need 1,000 tasbihs of salawat. I have 100, you have 200. I'm on those groups as well, mashallah. Now come to the hadith. Change the mindset tonight. We're not going to look for a corner in this globe that is what? That is shaitan free, or problem free, or hardship free. Grab my kids, hop on a plane, go one way to some country. Hopefully there, they'll leave me alone. They won't leave you alone. In fact, Imam Khomeini himself says, the moment that shaitan leaves you alone, that's when you're in the most trouble. Now you can take that as depressing, or you can take that as Jamal. Because so long as you are a blip on the radar of shaitan, that means you are still on Sirat al-Mustaqim. Otherwise, he wouldn't waste his time on you. You're already in his back pocket. The fifth Imam says, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'll go through the English, I'll cut the Arabic out. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to elevate somebody, they go through hardships. That much we know. That's not a big surprise. The next portion of how he explains things is extremely important. He says, to the point where sometimes there are those people that go through hardships in this world, one after the other, where others may feel like, I wonder what they did to bring the wrath of God upon them. To the point where they don't want to be around that individual. They have a bad omen, a bad energy. Maybe, a little bit of them might rub off on me. So now they're going through hardship and I'll go through hardship. Right? So we have people in our community, it's disgusting, if you ask me, where they won't invite divorced women to their daughters' marriages. I don't want that energy on a day like this. That's how we think sometimes, I'm sorry. And the fifth Imam says that there are some people that go through hardships to the point where people thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that at least we're not that bad. But then he says, if only they knew what Allah had waiting for them, they would not pray that they weren't one of them, they would beg to be one of them. On the flip side, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seizes the hereafter of those individuals and places the dunya at their feet. The best of homes, the best of this, whatever the dunya has to offer, it's yours. At the cost of the akhirat. To the point where others are envious of them. Why can't we have a house like that, a car like that, vacation like that, a life like that? Look how simple that is, blah, blah, blah. Again, if only they knew what's waiting for them, they wouldn't wish they were one of them. They would thank Allah they weren't one of them. The outlook has to change. You have to start looking at every experience in your life as a Jamali one. As an avenue back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There has to be a moment where now what happens? That I take the first step, Allah's grace and luft now comes. And by the way, Allah's Jamal doesn't always look like beauty. Sometimes we understand that the hardships that we have inside of our life, the suffering we have inside of our life is what is very much wrapped up in Allah's Jamal. One more example. Nabi Musa alayhi salam, my favorite prophet as many of you know. I love Nabi Musa. His story is incredible. So many lessons for us. Pick up the story where what? Him and the Bani Israel tribe are being chased by Fir'aun. They are now set on killing this tribe, and Nabi Musa once and for all. They reach a point where they are in front of this large body of water. Fir'aun and his men, what? Enclosing on them, approaching them. And the members of that Bani Israel tribe turn to Nabi Musa and says, now what will you and your Lord do? Look at the wording. Look at the wording. Rabbuka, your Lord. After everything they saw, everything that went through, after everything Musa pulled them out of all of the greatness they saw, all the miracles, all of the protection from Fir'aun, Allah is still Musa's Lord. Arey bhai, when will they become your Lord, yaar? Tell me, when will that become? How much more do you have to see? At that moment now where he comes down, enter into this large body of water, فَأَضْرِبْ عَصَاكَ. Go and strike your sword and your asa, your staff, on the ground. The moment he does that now, the Quran says, of course, the water splits. Now, Tafsir says, does Nabi Musa need to strike the staff for Allah now to split the water? No, of course not. There are two major points that I want you to understand from this verse of the Quran. One of them is that Allah is saying, look, Musa, you do what's in your power. I will show you what's in my power. But you do yours first, then you will see what I can do. Not before that. The example I gave in my first 10 days, teaching your child how to walk. You put that child over there. You call them towards you. Say, come, Ajo, come, Ajo. You dangle some keys. You dangle their favorite toy. And that kid is sitting there balancing. After 1 step and 2 steps, they begin to fall. And you grab them. But you grab them after the first 2 steps, not before that. You take the first 2 steps. If you're teetering and tottering about to fall, I'll grab you. I'm not going to grab you the moment you start. No, otherwise there's no point. I have to teach you how to walk. And also teach you when you fall, I'm there to pick you back up. Understand, everything you go through is the Jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most difficult test, the most bitter test, the deepest of wounds. As jalali as they are in nature, Allah says built in that, if you can just find it, is that jawhar and diamond of the Jamal of me. Inna Allah jamilun wa yuhibbul jamal. Allah says, I myself am beautiful and I love beauty as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Why do I bring this up tonight? Because not everything is what it appears to be. And that's the problem in today's society. Everything is taken as face value. If you feel like that, if that's how you want to look, if that's how you are on the outside, it means it must be how you are on the inside. No, man, that's not how it works. The Quran says, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌ لَكُمْ. It could be, Allah says, that you despise something, but it's very good for you. It could be that you love something, it's detrimental for you. Don't go based on the package. Don't go based on the exoteric. There's a hidden reality that requires basirat to understand. So all of you who are suffering tonight, and some of you are coming out of your suffering, others are going into your suffering, know that it's not always what it appears. Yes, you have to go through the storm. You'll get drenched by the water. Allah is not this person, like I said, magical potions. It'll rain on anybody, but there'll be no rain above you. So wherever you walk, there's no rain. No, Baba, you'll get drenched, I'll get drenched, torrential rainfall. That's the dunya, I'm sorry. The prophets, the imams, the ulama, the scholars, the poets, all of them went through their rainstorm. You and I will go through the rainstorm as well. No magical potions, no magical du'as, one night or overnight pills, nothing. But a logical approach to say that, look, this might be jalali in nature. My job as a servant of God is to ask Allah, Allah, please help me find the jawhar of your beauty in this. Help me find that. That's a dua I want you to ask. Don't ask me for a quick A on your final exam. Allahumma, study hard. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And that requires insight. That requires insight. Allah describes those who are in the hellfire. My last point, then Masayib. Describe those who are in the hellfire as what? وَلَهُمْ قُلُوبًا لَا يَفْقَهُونَ بِهَا وَلَهُمْ أَعْيُنٌ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ بِهَا. They have eyes. They don't see. Not that they're blind. They have 20/20 vision. It's the heart that does not see. Doesn't have basira. They're tricked by what's on the zahir. They're tricked on the packaging. It must be right. It's CNN. Has to be right. Look at them. They're very professional. It must be right because, like I said a couple nights ago, 4-syllable words. Academic. Sounds amazing. Must be right. There's not a single error in this message. Must be right because of the Zahir. And as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, we have been taught, and we should begin to exercise that, to look beyond what is on the outside, to get inside the reality of something. That's called basirat. And we are in dire need of our chishme basirat to be wide open today. Don't be fooled by the package. Many people have been given gifts that are wrapped up in beautiful bows, beautiful packaging. Oh my God, look at the packaging. Incredible. Empty box on the inside. It took half an hour to wrap, 30 seconds to destroy it. Inside, hollow. And you're wowed by the package. I'm wowed by the package. We're not here to be wowed by the package. We're not here to look only on the Zahir. Push yourself to be a little bit deeper. Look, I'll give you one example and then Masaib. First year university students, my uni guys in the audience, first year university, Psych 101, 400 students. 400 students. How many? Bolia, son, 400. 400 students. Comes time for the exam, everyone has the exact same time slot, exact same exam. You go and you're sitting in a massive auditorium that can fit 400 of you. The best hall on campus. You walk in as a first-year student and you begin your exam, but for half an hour when the exam starts, you may begin now. And you begin and people are writing and you're looking around saying, oh my God, this hall is amazing. Look at this hall. It's beautiful. There's crown molding on that. Look at this plush carpeting, stadium seating. These seats recline. Oh my God, look at that screen. Oh my goodness, look at this, look at that. Half an hour you're wowed by the exam hall until someone taps you on the shoulder. Mr. Jafri, you're not here to be wowed by the exam hall. Write the exam and move on. We're not here to be wowed by the Zahir of this dunya, by the Jalal of this dunya. We're here for a certain purpose. And that certain purpose is that amongst all of this Jalali experience we have inside, we must find the Jamal of Allah in that somewhere. And you can do it. Allah's giving you all the tools to. You just need to I need to remove the veils of my trauma, the veils of my anger, the veils of my jahalat, the veils of my arrogance and my ego, one by one. Imagine now that there's a diamond that is all, that's stuck in the mud. And you see a little inkling of a shine, like, oh, I think I found my diamond. You pick it up, it's covered in mud. When you wash it and you polish it, you see there's a diamond sitting there. Buried in filth. Give yourself a fighting chance. The society will take you only on a ride on the apparent, on the Zahir. And we know and you know full well, there's a lot more hidden inside. Allah says, find that hidden jewel. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Because there's no way that Imam Hussein, his companion, his family, do what they do on the plains of Karbala in Kufa and Sham without understanding that there is something more hidden here. There's a Jamali experience here that I must go through. The Ahl Haram now have moved out of Karbala. In a matter of a week or so, the Maqta says at the end of Muharram, beginning of Safar, they'll enter Sham eventually. That's why Ayam Azah has to be Muharram and Safar. Safar is a devastating month for the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt. The women that we revere, the women that we respect, the children that we love are entering the bazaars of Sham. And many of you have been to Sham and been to Syria. That bazaar is still there. How long is that bazaar? It's over a mile long, if not longer. Shops are still there. Imagine now that moment, the Ahl Haram Bibi Zainab, Kulsum, my Muslim Imam Sajjad, entering that bazaar of Sham, and everybody stops what they're doing to watch this what? And I'm sorry for this word, this tamasha to be unfolded. And they're being told these are rebellious individuals here to make life for your leader Yazid difficult. So those who had rocks would throw rocks at Zainab al-Kubra. Those who had garbage will throw garbage at this qafla of the Ahl Haram. There comes one moment, however, a devastating moment. As this Ahl Haram now is walking through the bazaar of Sham, there's a woman with her daughter on the second floor watching this happen. And she sees that beside Zainab al-Kubra, there's a 4-year-old Sakina. It's that 4-year-old, right? That Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura says, Zainab, I'm leaving now. I want 2 things from you. Number 1 is don't forget me in your namaz al-shab. Number 2, I'm leaving you my 4-year-old amanat. Look after my Sakina. Look after my Sakina. If at night she gets scared, sleep beside her. That's why during the days of Arba'een, when Zainab al-Kubra makes her way back to Karbala, and she does her one ziyarat of Hussein, Bhaiya, I'm back from Sham now. Bhaiya, I'm back from Kufa now. But a part of me is broken-hearted. Why, Zainab? You gave me your amanat on the day of Ashura. I left that amanat in the zindan of Sham. This woman now is watching Zainab al-Kubra, talking to this 4-year-old. This 4-year-old now is what, asking for water. Is there water? I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty. And she's watching this. This woman grabs her daughter, grabs a small cup of water, comes downstairs, goes to Bibi Sakina and says, you're thirsty? Here's water for you. Now can you imagine now, in this hostile environment, Zainab al-Kubra sees a moment of compassion. She has to ask, who are you? Why are you giving us this cup of water? And she says one thing I've read in the Maktal myself. Others have talked about another conversation. The one thing that breaks my heart, she says that I also have a daughter who's 4 years old. I can't stand to see young children thirsty. I wanted her to have some water. Then Zainab al-Kubra says, thank you very much. Is there anything that I could do in return, or we could do in return? And that's when the woman says to Zainab al-Kubra, I have a 4-year-old as well. If you can ask your Sakina to pray, inshallah, that the way she's become yatim, that my daughter doesn't become yatim. I don't know how Sakina did it. She raised her small hands. Ya Allah, for the sake of my yatimiyat, please make sure that this daughter is not yatim like me. Matina Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein.